The moment the flatbed pulled away, it was already too late. The new owner of that pristine 1970 Chevelle SS had driven it exactly once, just long enough to fall in love. But Ryan Martin didn't buy the car to drive it. He didn't buy it to cruise it, flip it, or preserve it for a museum. He bought it with a single, violent intention: to take a plasma cutter to the floorboards, rip out its soul, and turn a showstopper into a savage. In the world of street outlaws, they call this building a race car. But to the purists watching at home, this episode of Endgame looked a lot like a crime scene. This is the story of how Ryan Martin turned his dream car into a nightmare for everyone else. For years, we have watched Ryan Martin pilot the Fireball Camaro. It's a fifth-gen chassis car, sleek, aerodynamic, and undeniably fast. But if you know anything about the streets of Oklahoma City, you know that respect isn't given to computer-aided designs, it's given to heavy metal. When Discovery unveiled Street Outlaws, Endgame, the premise was a back-to-basics throwdown. The biggest names in no-prep racing, J.J. DeBoss, Murder Nova, Kai Kelly, were told to ditch the million-dollar rockets and build old-school muscle cars from the ground up. For Ryan, this was a dilemma. He is known for his surgical precision and high-budget builds. He doesn't usually dig through junkyards, he makes phone calls to engine shops. But the challenge hooked him. He had always wanted a '70s Chevelle. In his mind, it is the perfect car: the long hood, the aggressive stance, the Coke bottle shape that defined an era. However, in the Endgame rulebook, perfect doesn't win races. Perfect has to die first. When Ryan first unveiled the Chevelle on the show, it was a jaw-dropper. This wasn't a rusted barn find like some of his competitors brought in. It was a stunning, turnkey classic that looked ready for a Sunday church cruise. You could see the discomfort in the other racers' eyes immediately. J.J. DeBoss, who famously builds cars with duct tape and elbow grease, started making jokes about Ryan's big money. And while Ryan smiled it off, the tension was real. The hints that this was not a normal restoration were subtle but violent. In the first episode of the season, titled The Ryan Martin Project, Ryan didn't talk about restoring the Chevelle. He used words like cut, tub, and back half. This is the language of a man about to commit automotive blasphemy. He admitted that the car was so clean it almost hurt to touch it, but he wasn't building a museum piece. He was building a weapon. The first hint that the dream was ending was when the wheels came off. The second hint was when the sawzall came out. The tension in Endgame didn't come from a race, at least, not yet. It came from watching a man wrestle with his own OCD. Ryan Martin is a perfectionist. If a weld is ugly, he grinds it out. If a wire is out of place, he redoes the whole harness. But to make the Chevelle competitive, he had to make sacrifices that physically hurt him. The goal was to fit massive tires and a chassis setup that could handle the horsepower needed to run with the top dogs. That meant mini-tubbing the rear, cutting into the interior structure of the car. It meant fabricating a custom transmission tunnel to fit the massive gearbox required to handle 2,000 horsepower. The tension boiled over when they started cutting the perfect, rust-free sheet metal. You could see the crew holding their breath. Once you cut a classic car, there is no going back. It is a point of no return. The audience is left wondering, is he building a better car, or is he destroying the very thing he fell in love with? The emotional core of this story isn't a crash, it's a realization. In a detailed interview with Chevy Hardcore, Ryan Martin finally opened up about the mental shift required to complete the build. He admitted that for years, he was strictly a late-model guy. He loved the efficiency of new cars. But standing in his garage, looking at the cut-up shell of the Chevelle, something clicked. He realized that the car wasn't just a chassis, it was a responsibility. He recalled seeing the classic lines of the '70s Chevelle and admitting, "You just can't get away from how good they look." The emotional break happens when the car comes back from the fab shop on the chassis table. It is no longer a Chevelle. It is a race car wearing Chevelle skin. The suspension is aftermarket. The rear end is a fabricated 9-inch. The engine is a modern, supercharged LT-based beast. The dream car he saw on the poster as a kid is gone. What sits before him is a monster. The sadness is fleeting, however, because the moment the engine fires up that deep, choppy, supercharged snarl, he forgets about the sheet metal. He falls in love with the speed. Here is the truth that Ryan Martin's build reveals about the entire Street Outlaws universe: sentimentality doesn't win money. We want to believe that you can buy a barn find, spray some paint on it, and beat the world. But that's a fairy tale. The truth of the end game premise was brutal. To survive the streets of Vegas and the road trips required for the show, the car had to be dual purpose. The truth about the Chevelle is that it wasn't just a race car, it was an engineering paradox. Ryan wanted a car that could drive 1,200 miles from Oklahoma to Las Vegas, race in the high-stakes end-game tournament, and then drive him home. That required sacrifices that confused traditionalists. For example, the car initially ran a 10-speed automatic transmission. It was smooth on the highway, perfect for the long hauls, and a nightmare on the track because the gearing was too aggressive for the tires. Ryan had to swap in a heavy-duty 4L80 transmission just to make the car hook up. He ditched the simple big block for a high-tech LT supercharged mill. The truth is that a dream car is never finished. It is a living, breathing conflict between what looks cool and what wins. So, what happened to the dream? When the Chevelle finally hit the asphalt, it was a paradox. It looked like 1970, but it accelerated like 2030. The impact of Ryan Martin's decision to destroy a perfect Chevelle is that he created the perfect street car. He proved that you can have your cake and eat it too. With over 1,200 horsepower on tap and the ability to run deep into the 5-second range in the 8th mile, the Chevelle was a giant killer. It wasn't just fast, it was reliable, a testament to the insane budget and attention to detail that Ryan brings to the table. The legacy of this build is a challenge to the entire car community. Is a car only valuable if it's original? Ryan Martin answered that question with a resounding no. He took something beautiful, cut it to pieces, and rebuilt it in his own image. He showed us that sometimes, to keep a legend alive, you have to be willing to kill it first. Ryan Martin didn't just build a race car for endgame. He drew a line in the sand and proved that in the world of street racing, the only sin isn't cutting up a classic, it's being slow. And that Chevelle? It is anything but slow.